are such an asshole!
All cleaned up Cappy here. If you have a question and you have money, that's the key thing. Go to assholeconsulting.com. Send me your questions. I will give you advice. Why the fuck should you take my advice? I don't care. Look at my videos. See how awesome I am. And all this crazy shit I predicted that's going to happen. And if anybody listened to me, they wouldn't have had any housing bubble problems or education bubble problems or student loan. Just another fucking arrogant cocky guy. Anyway, this is a Clarey test request. And remember, the Clarey test is the 4-question test I apply to any politician or people in general to find out whether I would trust them and whether they should be in office. You want a low score. Ideally, the score would be 0, just like golf. But very few politicians get anywhere close to 0. And the 4 questions, the 4 tests are: 1, did you major in the liberal arts? If you did, you get a point. There is some scaling or some spectrum. So if you majored in, say, finance or economics, it's kind of like, they're worthless, but you actually did want to have some kids. But if you majored in lesbian women's studies, no, you get 0 points. Then the other question, do you have any private sector experience? If you do, you don't get a point. If you do not, as in the case of pretty much every fucking politician, you get a point. Wait, if you worked in the private sector, you don't get a point. If you never worked in the private sector, never worked a real job, you get a point. And that includes non-profit, touchy-feely bullshit, working in Salon magazine, and all this other crap where basically you either have a government check or your husband or your wife is supporting you because no one really wants to pay you for your shit. Then, are you currently working a real job? Are you in the public sector? What is your job? Are you a politician? Well, you get a point. If you are a mechanic, you don't get a point because you are working a real job. And what was the 4th one? What's your degree? Oh, do you come from rich parents? If you come from rich parents, you get a point. If you don't, you do not. So Gary Johnson, he was a libertarian, and I'm reading more about him like, God, why didn't this guy do better? He's also a former governor of New Mexico, and he was running for the Republican nomination for the 2016 election. He is libertarian, and that's why he didn't get it, because the Republican Party, as you are fully aware, is corrupt as fuck. So, anyway, I went through and looked at this guy. This guy has a really interesting background, so please bear with me. Normally I use the computer screen, but since I'm on vacation, or in the field actually, I have to do it this way with the phone. Johnson was born on January 1953 in Minot, South Dakota, the son of Lorraine Bostow, who worked for the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and Earl Johnson, a public school teacher. All right, so he doesn't come from rich parents. I'm almost tempted to give him some points because if you work for government jobs, those are kind of cushy, and both of them were public sector employees. But given the money and the fact he's in North Dakota, I'm just going to assume he wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Graduated from Sandia High School, attended University of New Mexico, 7175. Graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Political Science. Number 1, political science is not a science. The liberal arts are not a science. They are frauds. They are touchy-feely emotional. They're arts. That's what they are, the liberal arts. They're not the social sciences. It is not a science that you do. That requires intelligence and math, and none of you have it. So he has a Bachelor's of Arts in political fuckery. So he has an absolutely worthless degree. And I am somewhat, I'd almost be willing to award him a little bit extra points, because if you major in political science, that means you think at the age of 17 you should be a leader. And it's just beneath you. You're just going to go and run for office. And you see this like with President Obama, Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, and then that James Coburn guy over in Scotland. These people went, Bernie Sanders, they went straight into politics at the age of like 17, 18. So they obviously thought themselves better than other people. And they find real work beneath them. So I was a little worried there until you find out a little bit more about him. He joined fraternity, blah, blah, blah. While in college, Johnson earned money as a door-to-door handyman. His success in that industry encouraged him to start his own business, Big J Enterprises, in 1976. When he started the business, which focused on mechanical contracting, Johnson was its only employee. His major break with the firm was receiving a large contract from Intel's expansion in Rio Rancho, which increased Big J's revenue to $38 million. Overburdened by his success, Johnson enrolled in a part-time or time management course at night school, which he credits for making him heavily goal-driven. Multi-million-dollar corporation with over 1,000 employees. When he sold the company in 1999, it was one of New Mexico's leading construction companies. All right, so this guy worked a real job, and then he sold it. And I'm going to tell you now, this is going to have an effect on how I'm going to rule on him for what is he currently doing today, because the dude's retired. The guy made his fortune, and so he's not going to get a point because then he went into politics. And normally I'd say, hey, you're currently running for office, you get a point, all right? But that's usually because they have nothing else going on. This guy made his money on his own, door-to-door handyman, built it from the ground up, so he doesn't get a point for not working in the private sector right now. And the guy, in his free time, you could tell, he's climbing Kilimanjaro, running triathlons, doing all this crazy, he's hang gliding. This dude is a guy that I would totally love to hang out with. So we have worthless degree, 1 point. Poor parents, no point. Retired, no point. And then, Clarey, what was it? Rich parents, worthless degree. Parents, worthless degree. He has private sector experience. He's not good. So he has 1 point. That's the score. That's his score. Is what he gets. And yeah, this is one of those rare politicians. Now he did become governor of Mexico, New Mexico, after he made his money and went into politics, which is how it should be done. That's what a true statesman does. Is you go and you work in the fucking field. You become an accomplished man or woman. And then after you've made your money and after you've put your time in and you have wisdom and experience, then you go and you become a true statesman and serve your people. You become a genuine public servant. Not one of these faggots like fucking James Coburn, Obama, Pelosi, where it's immediately, oh, I'm rich and I have rich parents and I want to go. Like George Bush even too. Fucking the entire Bush family. All right? Not just Democrats. But this is ideally what we, but we didn't want that guy. We didn't want him. We didn't want Ben Carson. Trump is still better than the career politicians, but we could have had something better. We could have had, no, we're stupid Americans. So, anyway, that's it. Yeah, pretty good score. Probably the best score out of all the politicians I've seen. So yeah, Gary Johnson, good guy. Anyway, best of luck to all of you. Doodles.